The GER Class A55 or Decapod was an experimental steam locomotive with an 010T wheel arrangement designed by James Holden for the Great Eastern Railway. It was the first 10-coupled steam locomotive in Great Britain. The locomotive was built for purely political purposes in order to block the passage through Parliament of a new rival scheme for an electric railway. The Decapod was built in 1902 to a design by the GER chief draftsman, Fred Russell, under the supervision of the chief superintendent, James Holden. The aim was to demonstrate the ability of a steam locomotive to accelerate passenger trains at a rate comparable to electric traction and the electric trams with which the GER was also in competition over short distances. The locomotive was far larger than any locomotive previously built in Britain for home service. It had 10 4-foot 6-inch driving wheels, which gave high tractive effort. 3 cylinders were used because there was insufficient room for 2 cylinders large enough to develop the required tractive effort without going up to a higher boiler pressure. Even so, it still had to have a pressure of 200 pounds per square inch to achieve the required result. There were 3 separate grates and ash pans, one on each side outside the frames and a third between, giving an aggregate area of 42 square feet. The trailing drivers were given a side play of 12.7 mm, the coupling rods being fitted with ball and socket joints. As the cranks of the 3 cylinders were set at 120 degrees in relation to each other, perfect balancing of the reciprocating parts was secured. In order to minimize the driver's slipping, compressed air sanders were fitted. The specification required that the locomotive should accelerate 315-ton train from a stand to 30 mph, 48 km/h, in 30 seconds. According to Ahrens, Holden's engine actually accelerated a new train of 18 carriages weighing 335 tons at a rate of 1.4 feet, second in very windy weather. Axle load at 16.75 tons, was not excessive, but weight per foot run of wheelbase was very high, and using a class of these engines would have necessitated considerable strengthening of bridges. Thus, whilst it achieved its aims, nothing resulted from the experiment. As the locomotive was therefore surplus to requirements, it was rebuilt in 1906, and converted into an 080 freight tender engine. The rebuild included a new boiler with a Belpaire firebox and a standard GE high-sided goods locomotive tender. Number 20 was then assigned to March District for hauling coal trains, but proved no more capable than the Class G58 locomotives. The design was therefore not repeated, and the locomotive remained the only 8-coupled engine of the GER. It was scrapped in 1913 as non-standard after a short working life. The Midland Railway produced the second 010 locomotive in 1919 with its Mr. 010 Licky Banker. The third 10-coupled engine, however, would not appear until 1943 in the guise of a class of 210s built by the War Department, the Austerity 210. These were followed in 1954 by the last class of British 10-coupled engines, the BR Standard Class 9F.